Welcome back. In this video, we're going to start talking about what it means to style an HTML page. So let's jump right in. So cascading style sheets. We're going to work up to that, but first I want to talk about where you can place styling, because you have really three options that we're going to talk about. The first is inline. You can actually put styling commands in as a parameter of an individual tag. Now this gives you very precise placement of your styling commands, but it's not really extensible, because if I'm going to use that same style over and over and over again, because it supports a theme that my website uses, I'd have to type that over and over and over again, and that gets really laborious. So we want to have really better ways to do it than inline, and one of the ways that web designers have improved it is you can put styling in the head section. Again, that's metadata. It's information you send to the browser, so it makes sense that you could put styling in the head section since nothing in the head is displayed. So you can put styling commands in a style tag in the head, but where you're really going to see most of the styling in a properly built website occur is in a cascading style sheet, which is simply another file that has an extension .css at the end of it, and it's basically going to be a file that holds all of your styling commands. And what we do is we then load that. So in the head section, instead of having the styles themselves, we're going to have a special link tag that loads the style sheet so that we can externally read it. And as we go through how we do styling, you'll see that this is really a better way to do it, okay? But those are the three ways you can do it: inline, in the head, or in a CSS page. So if you're going to use it inline, if you do need to do that, in any particular tag, it becomes one of the parameters of the tag. So in this case, we're saying h1 is the tag style, and we would put our style commands in here, and then anything in the region of that tag is going to be styled with this styling command. Now notice I did not put the styling commands in here. We'll talk about those in a bit. All right, if I want to load internal CSS into the head section, I am literally going to just have a style tag region within the head boundaries, and I'm going to put my styling commands in here. Okay, that's all there is to it. Okay. Now anything I do in here applies to the whole page, but again, it's better than directly putting it in each tag, but it's not as good as a CSS page, because if I have 10, 20, even 50 pages in my website, I have to put it in each page if I use that method. So CSS, you're going to see, is really the better way to do it. Now, how do I pull the CSS into a given web page? I need to really tell the browser three things: what I'm loading, the file format of what I'm loading, and where to get it. What's the file? And remember, particularly with this one, browsers are lazy and they hate you, right? So if you spell it wrong, it's not in the right folder, bunch of different reasons. If it doesn't find it, it's just not going to load it. So if you keep changing your CSS page and nothing's happening, you might want to check this statement that I'm about to bring up. It goes in the head section, and here it is. Link, rel equals style sheet. So we're telling the browser, go load a style sheet. It's going to be a CSS, so it's text/CSS is the type of file it's going to look for. And then the reference is mystyle.css. This could be hamsandwich.css. It does not matter. As long as the name in the folder where you tell it to go find it matches that, it should load it. Okay? So rel equals style sheet, type equals text CSS, href is whatever the file name is you gave your CSS page, and that goes in a link tag in the head section, and it should load the style sheet for you. So that's how we load an external style sheet. Now we're going to look at the syntax of what it means to create styles. Okay? So with any style, we're going to have really two things we need to think about. The first is the selector. Now, the selector is a symbol or a series of symbols when you really get into CSS that tells the browser, here is where you're going to apply this style. Okay? We're going to talk about selectors next. But I want to take a minute here to show you that you basically use these value pairs, if you will, where you've got an attribute and a value. So it's attribute colon value semicolon, and you have those stacked inside curly braces for that selector. And what you've done is whatever is selected by this selector will be given all of these style values. Okay? And you'll see these where there's just one thing in there, and you'll see them where there's like 30. Okay? As you get more and more used to CSS, you'll see all kinds of variants to these. But basically, for this class, we're going to stick with the very fundamental selector types, and then we're going to do the most common attribute value pairs as we go through. And we're going to show you this in a demo in about 2 videos. So this is the syntax of what it looks like. Now, there are 4 types of selectors that you're going to find in CSS. Okay? The first one you need to use very judiciously and very wisely. I never see more than like 1 or 2, maybe 3 things in it, because it literally applies to everything in the web page. Okay? So you're going to see it with like text alignment. I put color blue here to kind of show something you might not want to do in a global selector, because, and by the way, the selector is the asterisk. Okay, so if you see asterisk and then the open close, anything in here applies to the entire page, everything on it. Okay, so if you like say color is blue, background is blue, you've basically got a blue page. Okay, and obviously you wouldn't want to do that, but that's my point. Everything on the page gets what's with what is selected by the select everything symbol, which is the universal or the global selector, which is the asterisk. Okay. Next is a way of selecting a lot of things, but not everything. And that is called the type selector. And basically this gets close to being like a data type, but it's not really. It's a type of tag is the way I want you to think about it. So for example, let's say we want all of my largest headers, my H1s, to be centered in blue. Well, maybe that's something I want to do. Okay, so every time I type H1, I don't want to think about it. I just want to know it's going to be centered and blue. Okay, and there's a lot more that you could do to this to make a regional header for a major header. Normally, I see this applied around the H4 tag because there's often like subheadings that you want that are patterns with the divisions in your page, and H4 is usually where I'll see this done more. But it does not matter. If I have the A tag here for links, anything in here will be applied to every single A tag. Okay, so it's not the global pick everything and slap on a style, but it's still kind of a big sledgehammer, right? Because every H1 is going to get that. Even if I have an H1 that I don't want to have that, it's going to get it. Okay, so the type selector literally does every single version of whatever it is that is the HTML tag. Now notice there's no brackets around this, okay? It's just the name of the tag in the CSS. In your CSS page, you should see 0 HTML. There should never be HTML anywhere, no tags with the brackets in a CSS page, okay? And we're going to show you this in the demo. But the bottom line is all of them, whatever this tag name is, are going to get that styling. Now, if I want to be precise, we're going to kind of jump for a second to the other extreme. And if I want to apply a particular set of styling one time only, so I have a very specific header or a particular div, maybe it's only on my home page, and it's my menu that's on the home page, and that menu looks different on any other page, but I only want to use it one time, okay? In that case, I will use what's called the identification or the ID selector, All right, one use. Now that's per the standard. You're going to see people out there that use an ID more than once, and that is incorrect, and it would fail a compatibility or a standards test from the W3C consortium, the World Wide Web consortium where these standards come from. It would not pass their standardization test because you're supposed to only use an ID tag one time. Okay, that's the way it's designed per the standard. Now, when you use the hashtag, which is the symbol for the ID selector, you have to give it a name. And this name can be anything. I called it ID name here just to be generic, and it says it's a name you invent as a name you will use in your HTML one time. Okay, this could be hashtag ham sandwich for all I care, right? It's something you want to name it, you know, something that makes sense for your web page. But that is a name that you invent. Okay, so hashtag, give it a name, same syntax with whatever the standard is for whatever you're trying to style, right? But it's going to be, you know, parameter value, semicolons at the end, colons between them. Okay, once you have that done, that is now available, and you can use that one time in your web page. Now, the question that should be burning in your head right now is, well, what if I want something that I use over and over again? And that is where most of the power of CSS will be realized for you in your web pages. And that is known as the class selector. When you build a class selector, you can use these things as many times as you want. Okay? So if you have a certain type of div that has the picture and a bio of people in a company, and you're going to have 15 different locations where you have different people presented in an about us type of a thing, and you want to keep reusing that code, you can create the styling for that div and just reuse it everywhere. Okay, so instead of a hashtag, use a period. Okay, so it's period. Again, make up a name. Doesn't matter what you call it. All right. And that's a name for a class that you will use over and over again. Notice the syntax for all of these, none of that has changed. Okay? So, period is a class which you use over and over and over again. And hashtag is an ID which you get one use. If you use the name of a tag, that's a type selector. And that applies to all instances of whatever that tag type is. And then you have the global selector, which just slaps it on everything. Okay? So that is basically how selectors work, and a look at the syntax of how we do styling. In the next video, we're going to kind of pull that together and show you how to load those and identify the IDs and the classes in your HTML. And then once we're done with that, we're going to do a live demo where we style that web page that we built in the prior demo. So we will do one more video, then a demo, and that should round out our introduction to CSS. I'll see you on the other side.